Hey guys, hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining. Today, I want to share with you a passage that the Lord just really been dealing with my heart with the last few days. And it's a passage found in Mark chapter 12. And it's Jesus in conversation with the religious crowd. And Jesus is asked a question. And the question is simply this: of all the commandments, which one is the foremost of all? Of all the commandments that you have given, which one's the most important is the question. And this was Jesus' response to that question: to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Wow. Of all the commandments that's been given, the most important is to love Jesus above everything else. You know, loving Jesus, or my saying, Jesus, I love you, is really easy to say. But what does that begin to look like in my life? Thank God that when we become followers of Jesus, that because of the grace of God and his love for us, he begins to pour in us unconditional love, not for us to store up, but so that that love can flow in us and through us and back to him, and he gives us an overabundance to love other people. Thank God that he gives us this unconditional love, to love him in a way that we can never love him on our own. But as you begin to look at that word love, what you begin to realize is that loving Jesus is a choice. You know, I choose whether or not I'm going to allow this love that God gives us, that God places in our lives as followers of Jesus, if I'm going to choose to allow it to flow through me back to him, to love him in a way that I could never love him on my own. So it's a choice. And Jesus says, look, I want you to choose to love me above everything else. And you know, that's the most important choice that we can make, because that one choice affects every other choice. My choosing to love Jesus above everything else today will affect everything that I do. It will affect every choice that I make today. It'll affect the way I love my wife, the way I love my children, the way I love my grandchildren, the way I love other people. So you see, choosing to love Jesus will affect every other choice that I make. May we choose to love Jesus today. The word also carries with it the meaning of to delight in making that choice. And man, I love that. I love the fact that Jesus says, I want you to choose to love me, but I want you to have fun doing it. I want you to have a blast loving me, Jesus says. So let me ask you a question. Are you having fun just loving Jesus today? You know, we need to choose to love him, but we need to delight in that choice. Choose to love him, but man, just have fun loving Jesus. I think oftentimes that we view loving Jesus kind of like going to the dentist, that it's something that we have to do, but we're not really going to enjoy it. You know, I pray that today that we'll understand that he desires for us to delight in loving him above everything else. You see, loving Jesus is not something that we have to do. Loving Jesus, praise God, is something that we get to do. So let's delight in making the choice to love him above everything else. And then also with that word, there comes with it a sense of responsibility. Because of this love relationship that we have with Jesus, choosing to love him, delighting in that choice, it will lead us to serving him and to serving other people. You see, oftentimes I think that we believe that our doing is more important than who we are becoming. You see, my serving Jesus needs to be an overflow of my love relationship with Jesus, never a substitute for my love relationship with Jesus. You see, who I am becoming in this love relationship with him, this love relationship with the Father that he's offered me through the provision of Jesus, is the most important thing in my life. That choosing to love him, delighting in that choice, growing in this love relationship with him, and from that, my service will flow out of that. I know oftentimes in my life that it's been about serving, and I'm not saying serving is not important. It is, but my service can never be a substitute for my love relationship with Jesus. It needs to be an overflow of my love relationship with Jesus. You know, it's really easy for me to say I love Jesus. It's really easy, but what does that look like? It begins to look like, man, I choose to love him. I'm having a blast doing it. And because of that love relationship, I'm going to serve him out of that overflow of love with Jesus. So who are you becoming today? Are you focusing on who you are becoming in this relationship with Jesus? Or are you focusing on what you're doing? Who I am becoming, who you are becoming are way more important than what I'm doing, because what I'm doing will happen if I am becoming the man that God created me to be. I'm thinking about this time that I was on a trip with some guys, and we were at a conference, and one side began to chant, "I love Jesus." I love Jesus. How about you? And the other side would chant back, "I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. How about you?" And this guy that with us told us later that made him really, really uncomfortable, because he began to realize he didn't love Jesus like a lot of those people. He couldn't chant that back and forth because he didn't love Jesus. Later on that night, he gave his heart and his life to Jesus. He began to understand the relationship that God wanted with him through the provision of Jesus. And it's all about a love relationship with Jesus. So I want to end with simply asking you, do you really love Jesus above everything else? Think about that today. Choose to love him. Delight in making that choice and serve him out of that love relationship with him. I hope you have a blessed day, and remember, let Jesus be Jesus in you.